Welcome back to Newsday. I'm Samantha Dawson. We'll take you live now to Canberra, where the Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers is responding to the latest GDP figures.
In real communities right around Australia, and whether or not they can provide for their loved ones. So as always with this government, it's important to go beyond the headline. This government loves the headline and they don't want us to go beyond that to see what's really going on. But when you do that today in these national accounts, what you discover is the same sort of stagnant wages and weak consumption and stagnant living standards which have defined the economy for most of this government's tenure in office, which is now in its 8th year. So we need less smirk from the Treasurer and more work for millions of Australians who are looking for it. It's not clear to us why the Treasurer is patting himself on the back when his own numbers say that unemployment will be too high for too long and for some years to come. Now, that's why the Reserve Bank this week and the OECD overnight has said that there are great dangers in declaring victory at half-time here. We shouldn't be declaring victory over this recession too early when too many people are struggling, too many people are without work or without the hours that they need at work. This is the point the OECD and the Reserve Bank have made very well in the last 24 and 48 hours' time. Now, it beggars belief that when the economy and the country is crying out for a plan to kickstart the recovery and to create really good, secure, well-paid jobs, that the government seems to have three focuses here. To attack superannuation, to weaken consumer protections in the financial system, and also to celebrate the kind of stagnant wages outcomes that ex-Minister Cormann described as a deliberate design feature of the government's economic policies. Now, this is exactly the same approach that left Australia vulnerable going into the recession and will leave Australians vulnerable coming out of the recession if they continue down this ideological path. Now, you'll hear a lot today, and you have heard a lot today, from the Treasurer and the Prime Minister about Australia's comeback. Every time you hear the Prime Minister or Treasurer talk about a comeback, what they really mean is they want Australia to go back to the insecure work and the stagnant wages and the declining living standards that have characterised their time in office even before COVID-19. Australians deserve a much better return on the $1 trillion in debt that this government has racked up. They deserve better than a government which racks up $1 trillion to pay for private jets for ex-ministers and $1.2 billion robo-debt settlements and taxpayer-funded executive bonuses and all of the other ways that this government is wasting money rather than focusing on the task at hand, which is to recognise that a recovery in GDP is a good thing, but it will mean nothing for many Australians if it's not accompanied by a substantial improvement in the jobs market as well.
Do you believe that any further growth and recovery will be hampered until the Chinese relationship is back on track?
Look, it remains to be seen. I think the future is uncertain for a number of reasons. On the health front, it depends on subsequent outbreaks. We've seen how damaging they can be. It depends on the timing and deployment of the vaccine. On the international front, it depends on, in many ways, on how some of our international partners perform, how their economy performs, their own capacity to limit the spread of the virus. And as part of that, clearly, it relies on whether or not we can get the relationship with China into a much better place. But there are other uncertainties too. The government's capacity to get the withdrawal of stimulus over time right is a big uncertainty. My fear is that there will be a bumpy landing as the government withdraws this economic support because they're in a rush to pat themselves on the back and withdraw that support too soon. That's another uncertainty. And the other one, which is topical today, given the national accounts, there's a big uncertainty about when and whether Australians will be prepared to spend again, particularly to unwind some of the savings that they have accumulated in the last 6 or 9 months, but whether or not they have enough capacity in the medium term to spend again, which has obvious benefits for our shops and small businesses in the West and right around Australia.